Okay, we now welcome on a very, very, very special guest. It is the man, the myth, the legend, Bryan Cranston. He has a new show out December 6th, that's Sunday, called Your Honor on Showtime, which I'm very excited for. I watched the trailer. I'm excited for it. Thank you for giving us new TV in a time when a lot of us are sitting at home, not able to go out to the bars and everything. My first question was... it's been a while since we've seen you in a big-time TV show like this. Was that a conscious decision to take some time off so people aren't like, hey, there's the meth-dealing guy?
Yeah. Hey, first of all, good to see you guys. I hope you and your families are well. And boy, it is challenging times, no doubt. It's been anything but a boring year.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of looking forward to boring.
Yeah.
Yeah. A career is made of a lot of decisions, and when I was steeped in Walter White world and Breaking Bad and what that became, I realized that, it's that character became so iconic that it's going to be hard to lose myself or have an audience feel that they could lose their self looking at me in some other capacity. So I gave myself a moratorium of like 3 years. It was an arbitrary number. I just said, I feel like I have to stay away from television for at least 3 years. And so I did that. I went off and I did some theater and Broadway in London and did some films. But for me, it's not necessarily the medium more than the story. If I'm compelled by what I read, if it touches my heart or makes me think or has importance in society or something, then I want to be a part of it. And that could mean on stage, it could mean a film, could mean a TV show. And this happened to be a television show.
Well, I read an article before this interview where you said, in your business, sometimes people will get fatigued of actors or characters. I want to push back on that. I don't think anyone's ever been fatigued of you. The world needs more of you. But it actually kind of worked that time you took off from being in a TV show, and then this pops up and you're like, oh, I'm very, very excited for this. Like, I'm pumped that we get to see Bryan Cranston again.
Good. Well, I'm glad you're saying that. I hope everybody else says that too. But I mean, what really got me about this show, Your Honor, was the premise that it asks the question, what would you do to save the life of your child? And I don't know. Are you guys parents?
I am, and I if you ask me that, my son's 18 months. If you asked me that 2 years ago, I'd be like, I don't care. And then the minute you have a kid, you're like, oh my God, it sounds cliche, but literally everything has changed in my life.
It really does. And you wear your heart on the outside. And, for guys, we take care of ourselves. We get married. We open up that circle, take care of our wives and be protective. And then you have children, and all of a sudden wait till they go off to school, man, and you can't control situations, and it's tough. And here's a situation where I have a 17-year-old son in the show, and he gets involved in a car accident, panics, and leaves the scene of the accident, which created a crime. But he's a sensitive kid. He did the wrong thing. He tells me about it. I tell him that we need to do the right thing, or your soul will forever be stained by this. So I tell him we're going to turn him into the police department and go through the judicial system and hope for the best. And that's tough enough. When I get to the police station, I discover that the kid who he hit, who died at the scene, his parents are grieving. They're at the police station as well. And I find out that the father, is a notorious and extremely dangerous mob boss. So I know immediately that guy is going to find my son and kill him.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's all it took for my character to make that impulsive decision to say, we're turning around, we're going home, we're not doing what I said we should do, because everything changed, like you said,
Yeah.
Interesting. I like the notion of taking some time off to kind of reset and let the audience reset. It's funny because we were interviewing Matthew McConaughey about 2 weeks ago on this podcast, and he said that he had to do the exact same thing. Two of our generation's greatest actors, Matthew McConaughey and Bryan Cranston, he had to just stop getting pictured outside shirtless so that he would no longer be receiving offers for rom-coms. You probably had to just, no more pictures of you in your whitey tighties standing on a road.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Speaking of,
it's like you got to draw the line somewhere or you forever be typecast.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's that Matthew just sent me his book, Green Lights. I'm looking forward to reading that. But that's what you have to do. And what he did take a journal, try some other avenues of creativity that stimulates you. If you're fortunate, which we have been, there's always avenues for you to go back and try something else.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell when you run into somebody on the street and they recognize you? Can you tell right away if they're going to know you as the dentist from Seinfeld, as Malcolm's dad, or Walter White?
Usually by their age, I can tell, or the gender. If it's an older mom, it's like, oh, I bet that's a Malcolm thing there. Mm-hmm. In the city, in New York City, in more urban settings, older people know me as the dentist on Seinfeld. College kids or guys who are just starting out, your age, your generation, that's mostly Breaking Bad, I think. Is that no? Yeah.
I think Breaking Bad, at least in my opinion, I think it's the best television show of all time. And the character arc that you have when you're working on it, Walter White goes from the most mild-mannered milquetoast guy that you can ever imagine to obviously like a ruthless killer and a criminal mob boss essentially. As you found yourself acting in that role over the course of those years, did you feel cooler as like year 3 and 4 happened? You're like, I don't have to play nerd anymore. I can like shave my head, go around talking shit to people.
It's really something. There is something innate in confidence, and when I cast people as I direct and produce now too, so I'm also casting. When I see an actor come in filled with confidence, it gives me confidence that they can do what they say they can do, and I think that goes a long way. I try to tell high school and college kids, be bold, take a step out. Look someone in the eye. Have confidence in that. If you see someone who walks into a room looking for a job, and they're like, I maybe, and I don't know if I'm not winning them. I look at that and I go, I'm not sure that I can trust that if they get on the set that they can do this job.
Yeah.
So confidence is everything.
That's probably the compliment we get the most in terms of our sports opinions. We are terrible with them. Our takes are terrible, but we say them confidently enough that people think we're right. Why do you
hang on? There's a difference between confidence and arrogance.
Yeah, we're arrogant. That's us.
All right, so here's an
arrogant. It turns out arrogance plays in sports.
Yeah, here's an arrogant/confident question. How big of an asterisk do we put next to the Dodgers World Series victory because it was only 60 games and it didn't really count?
Shut up. That's an arrogant question. How about going back to 2017 and telling the Houston Asterisk that they don't deserve that trophy?
Yes. How? So you obviously are a big Dodgers fan. Are you a Lakers fan as well? Has this been like?
Yeah, I'm a homer. I was born and raised in Los Angeles, so I'm straight down the line for all the teams here. The Rams left me 20 years ago, and then they came back, and they thought that they can just win me over right away, like your girlfriend dumped you, and then she comes back and tries to just pick up where they left off. It's like, hey, not so fast. I can smell St. Louis all over you.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So. So I'm kind of warming up to that, although I also start to really like the New Orleans Saints in football because I spent so much time down there shooting the series and got to know Sean Payton and went to some of the games, and it's a lot of fun. That team's really fun. I think they're going to do well this year.
So Your Honor, obviously, like you just said, takes place in New Orleans. How much New Orleans do we get? Because I love, when you watch a show and like The Wire is Baltimore or Breaking Bad, you're in the middle of the desert. How much do we get of New Orleans? How much of New Orleans is a character in this show?
You get it. We did this right. I think we gave it its prominence, and we're in the court system. We're in the French Quarter. We're along the Mississippi River. We're seeing the streetcars and the jazz and the second line marching during funerals it's the food. It's such a passionate city. It was great to work down there, and it was a great backdrop for this story.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that you're the best actor in television history?
Do you think so?
I'm going to say something with confidence. Yes.
No.
I think you are.
I don't think in those. I honestly don't think in those terms. I have no idea. I don't really care. I don't think that can be answered, and it's not even important to answer it. I just do the work. I have a blue collar background. We didn't have money growing up. My parents split up. We got kicked out of our house, foreclosed on. I had to live with my grandparents for a year. It's just so it was a tough, confusing kind of childhood, and you navigate your way through it. And the thing that I took with me that always was in my back pocket is the ability to work and to shut up, keep your nose clean, do the work. And that's all I know how to do. Some, young actors will tell me, well, what do you attribute it to? And I go, I really don't know. I just keep working. So when it comes to awards and things like that, which I've had an abundance of given to me, which I'm very happy about, but it's always come as a surprise. Just, someone taps me on the shoulder. I'm focused on the work, and someone wants to honor me. It's like, that's great. So that's the basis of it. I just love to work. I love to tell stories, and I think it's one of the sweetest things about human beings is that whether you're 2 or 102, you always want to be told a story.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, and always when I see somebody on TV, and if it's an actor or an actress, and they can cry on command, to me that's just like a cheat code. I'm like, well, they must be the best actor of all time. Like, I'll give you a specific scene. I think it was in Ozymandias. It was the one where Hank got killed, right?
Yeah.
I just love any series that kills anybody named Hank. Just for the record, that's our producer's name. When he's killed at the end, when you have that breakdown and kind of things become real, you start to bargain. You go through like all the stages of grief essentially within, a 15, 30-second time span. What's making you go through that? Do you actually get a little bit afraid in the moment? And then secondly, how long does it take you to like get back to zero and recover after shooting such an emotionally intense scene?
Well, that's a good observation, because it does cost you. Actors have to be willing to spend their capital emotionally. In order to be an effective actor, you do have to have talent. I don't want to dispute that. You do. But you also have to have an insatiable curiosity to be able to do the research, to be able to use your imagination on things you can't find. The other thing is you have to be willing to open up the cavity of your life and say, okay, I'm going to appear in my underwear. I'm going to show that Walter White, when we first see him, was flabby and pasty and out of shape, and I'm going to show that. And as embarrassing as it may be for you personally, it's right for the character. So you have to go there and allow yourself to be exposed like that and potentially humiliated. But what's great about human beings is that when you get out of middle school, in middle school, when someone embarrasses themselves, everyone laughs with them and laughs at them. You get out of when you're in college and later, you see someone publicly embarrassed or humiliated, that's the last thing you want to do, because you don't want it to be you. So you emotionally or even physically put your arms around that person to protect them. And that's what draws in an audience. When they can relate to a person's flaws, when they're not perfect and they're trying, they go, that guy is me, or that's you. I recognize that person. And then you take them on that journey with you, and they trust you. because you've shown them your vulnerability. I was in my underwear, and that's all. And those people are going, that poor bastard, man, and he's dying of cancer, and oh my God. So I'm on board with you, and then you've got them. Then you take them for a ride, and you have a responsibility to fulfill that promise.
And that's actually a great promo for Your Honor, because like you said, the vulnerability of a father being like, what would I do for my son? That's, I mean, I like I said, I watched the trailer and I was like, I'm in. I'm all the way in. Not just because mostly it's you, but also because of the story. Once you realize what it's about, you're like, damn, this is going to be great. Did you think the Fly episode was boring?
No, I thought it was very unique.
You're such a hipster.
Hey, man. Did you think it was boring?
No, I didn't think it was as bad as people said it was. Well, some people said it was. It was obviously very volatile. Some people said it was the greatest ever. I just was like somewhere in between. It wasn't the greatest ever, and I wasn't totally bored to death, but I was like, all right, I'm ready for the next episode.
It's so interesting I mean, Vince Gilligan is such a genius that he was able to say, okay, what if we just focus on the minutest element, the smallest thing around, and he becomes obsessed with that. In this case, a fly. And so this little fly in Walter White's kind of damaged mind actually starts to believe could ruin his whole enterprise, could damage the credibility and the quality of the cook. So he's got to get this fly. And it created anxiety with the viewers because we kept it so small.
Yeah.
And you're constantly waiting for the story to open up, and it just never does.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh God.
Yeah, and I guess it was mission accomplished because it was beloved and also hated. And I feel like you can't have a better compliment than to be like, well, I elicited ultimate emotion on both sides from this episode.
That's right. Like you guys, what you were talking about earlier. Do you want to go through life not taking a stand? Do you want to be reserved in your opinions and not? No. Right or wrong, here's what I feel. You don't have to agree with me, but this is what I feel and what I think. And whether that's making a prediction in sports or politics or religion or whatever this is what I stand for. And you can be respected for that. You're not always going to be revered for that or loved, but you will be respected.
Well, how about you make a prediction on the Rams, over or under half a Super Bowl for Sean McVay during his time in Los Angeles?
Ooh.
Well, God, he's already been there. He didn't. You mean a Super Bowl victory?
Super Bowl victory,
Yep.
yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
I think, this team is kind of frustrating because it takes a few steps forward and a couple steps back. Like last week's game was just like, what are you doing? But perhaps it was a good loss. Perhaps Goff has matured and realized certain things that he will need to learn if he's going to be an elite quarterback. So let me say this. Let me say that that the Rams will pull it together. And I would say as 75% yes, that McVay's stay in Los Angeles will produce a Super Bowl victory.
This is kind of a weird question about sports and celebrity. I feel like when people become A-listers, they just don't really care about sports the same way. Or they maybe, they got so much stuff going on. They're A-listers, so they're not like, hey, I'm going to sit on a couch for an entire Sunday and watch all this football. Has that happened to you, or do you still like, hey, if my team's on, I'm going to watch them?
The latter. I realized when I was a kid, man, I watched everything. I would even listen to hockey games on my transistor radio. I mean, I loved it. Unheard of, but yeah, I just don't have the time. Who's got the time? Once you have kids and a wife and a house and it's like, you're juggling so much. You just, you've the demands of life. But I try to catch the teams, that I root for as much as possible, and stay in tune with it. I'm, like you said, I'm a real big baseball fan.
Yeah.
And boy, for the Dodgers to win this year was a real treat.
When you were watching that last game, were you like, what the hell is going on? Why are they taking Blake Snell out? Like, you obviously were excited that they were taking him from the game. But what were your emotions going through those like last 3 roller coaster innings?
I thought, finally, if you get that guy out. In fact, I think the Dodgers should pick that guy up. He's they're talking about possibly trading him. I think he's a gamer. That guy is tough to beat. Former Cy Young winner. I couldn't understand why they took him out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he gave up like 2 hits, and it was like yanked him immediately. And I thought, whoa. So that's going to be debated for quite a long time. I think Cash is going to face a lot of criticism for that for years to come.
Are you a numbers guy, like a sabermetrics matter guy? Because I know that it can be justified in theory going back and looking at the trends when he gives up a certain number of hits after he's going through the lineup twice. But then there's also the other side where it's like, this is your Cy Young guy. This is the guy that got you here. Let him keep pitching. Which side of the debate would you find yourself on?
Well, as an actor, you are innately an emotional person. You are in tuned with your gut, with your how does something feel? What's your sensibility about something? So it's totally not numbers, not the business end of it. And he gives up X amount of ground balls, and so the next pitch should be such and such. And no, it's. I think he went with the numbers and didn't go with his gut. And you saw, I mean, Blake Snell. No pitcher really should want to come out unless they injure themselves and realize I'm done.
Right.
But he wasn't close to being done. So I couldn't understand, but I rejoiced.
Yeah. All right. I had one last question. Bryan Cranston, Your Honor is coming out Showtime on Sunday night. Very, very excited. Episode 1, December 6th. So you haven't missed any. Make sure you watch it. Final question brought to you by Cross Country Mortgage, America's crazy good mortgage company. Go to ccmlens.com/take to learn more about your future home buying experience or refinancing needs. Equal housing opportunity. All right. So we do a little thing. People also ask. So if you ever go on Google and it's like, this is what, how tall is this person? So one of the people also asked, so this isn't us asking, this is the people, is Bryan Cranston a nice guy? And the answer is, as an A-lister as they may be, Cranston has been known to be gracious, complimentary, and full of respect for those who came before him and those who will come after him. So it seems like you're a nice guy. Is that acting? Are you acting nice?
Fuck off. I don't need to answer that question.
I think you're acting nice. I think that's how good of an actor you are. You're actually an asshole, and then you're acting nice, and then people also ask on Google, and boom. But no, seriously, it's actually rare, I feel like, for A-listers to be like, oh, he's also a nice guy. So good job acting there.
I learned how to behave very early on. An old friend is Tom Hanks, and I worked with him several times when he was producing and directing and writing, and I saw how he handled himself on the set, doing work, being respectful. And the actors that I've worked with who I emulate and respect are also those who showed respect to others. And be kind, be happy, be lucky that we're working as an actor. I always remind myself of that. Every time I step onto a set, it's like, this is the greatest. Look at what I get to do for a living. It's insane. So why wouldn't you be happy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if you know this. Actually, you probably do know this. But in 2006, I wrote a movie about a high school dropout that makes and sells meth with his high school chemistry teacher. So I don't know if you spent any time in Richmond, Virginia, where it aired for the first time, or if Vince was around. But if you truly are a nice guy, like the internet says, I feel like 5-6% of residuals would be a fair thing to share with me. I don't know. Maybe you can tell me what's industry standard here.
Well, I think you just froze. I don't think I didn't quite hear
10%. 10%. I heard. Okay, I heard you say 10%.
Yeah.
Wi-Fi is weird.
So the history behind that is, I didn't watch Breaking Bad for like the first 2 seasons because I was mad, because I wanted to make like a full-length movie out of it. Then I started to watch it, and I was like, God damn it, this is the best show I've ever watched. I guess I can't be mad anymore. So you turned me. So anybody out there that hasn't checked it out, go watch Breaking Bad. Watch.
It's a little show.
Yeah, it's a little show called Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
But also feel free to send me a check, Brian, next time you get one in the mail.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you wrote that, and like what a common practice in Hollywood is for writers to write spec scripts. And so you write something that you think would sell, and you can actually get a job off that script. Whether or not that script ever gets produced is not as important.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
That was a nice guy answer.
Very nice guy answer. God damn it.
All right, Bryan Cranston, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Everyone go watch Your Honor. Very excited for this show and appreciate it a lot, man.
Thanks, brother.
All right.
See you guys.
See ya.
See ya.
Take care.